everybody, I'm Fenichel. In this lesson we're going to be taking a look at the groove for What is Hip, which is Tower Power, Dave Garibaldi. In response to the soul vaccination breakdown that I had done previously, I had a couple of students ask me, well, why don't you do What is Hip? We're going to break it down because there's actually 3 different parts that I want to show you that pretty much make up the entire song. Of course, there's little transition parts in between. We're not going to go too crazy with that, maybe in a different lesson. But for right now, we're just going to concentrate on that verse groove, the intro groove, and that outro groove. This particular groove is kind of based in that linear fashion, where everything is on its own spot. Now, it's not truly linear because the bass drum does line up with some of the hi-hats every now and then, and we're going to do a very skeleton version of it, so that way you could understand the feel of it, and then maybe later add your own inflections to make it sound the way you want to make it sound. Let's go ahead and take a look at the intro groove first. On the intro groove, what we're going to do is we're going to work on just getting the ostinato together. The idea of this, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2. So you got to get that feeling of da, ta, 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 ta on the hi-hat. Then of course throw the backbeat in. 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4. The bass drum is going to follow this same ostinato throughout the whole measure. It's going to go 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 1, and 2, and a 1, 2, and a 3, and a 1. And what's going to happen also is the horns accent. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, Now I don't expect you to get it that way because it's going really, really fast. So let's go ahead and break it down to a nice slow tempo, 60 on the metronome, and run through this groove. Here's what it sounds like. Now let's work on breaking that apart. Let's talk about just the hi-hat part and how to find that. Next step, we're going to add the snare drum to that. Third step, we're going to go ahead, keep the hi-hat, keep the snare drum, and add the bass drum part. Finally, we're going to show you where those horn hits line up with the snare drum. So that's going to take care of our introduction groove. Let's move on to the verse, which is a little bit trickier. It's actually funny because the verse actually reminds me of a Neil Peart Rush groove. If anyone's ever learned like YYZ or any of those Neil Peart grooves, they know this that type of groove, he likes to use that voicing a lot, that 1 and a 2 E end, 3 and a 4 E end. That's the basis actually of this groove as well. Of course, he's playing it with a little different inflection and bringing it back and making it more of a groove, but the sticking, it fundamentally is exactly the same. So it's going to be right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. And that's going to be the flow of the beat. Of course, you're going to still add that same bass drum ostinato to that, and then we're going to work on putting eighth notes in on the hi-hat, which makes the hi-hat open up in a couple of spots that are kind of hard to find. So if you get everything right, those hi-hat openings should just happen on their own. You shouldn't have to worry about where they're actually working out. Let's take a look at this groove at a slower tempo at 60 on the metronome and hear what it sounds like. All right, great. Now let's take a look at just the hi-hat part and break that down. Next, we're going to go ahead and add the snare drum and all the ghost notes against that hi-hat pattern. The next step is we're going to keep that pattern and add the bass drum to it. The final step is to add the left foot on the hi-hat. So let's hear what that sounds like. Now you want to practice going back and forth between that intro and the verse and just trying to make that transition nice and smooth. The final groove we're going to study is the outro groove. And basically he just changes the hi-hat part just slightly to mix it up a little bit. And then he brings it over to the ride cymbal. Let's take a look at what that sounds like at a slower tempo. Great, now we're going to go ahead and break down just that new hi-hat part. The next step, once again, we're going to add your snare drum and your ghost notes against the hi-hat part. And finally, we're going to add the bass drum. So that pretty much wraps up all the foundation grooves of what is hip. Now, like I said, there's a bunch of those transition spots that you got to get into, and that's a little bit of a different thing. I come at that more from a filling standpoint than from a grooving standpoint. So that's something you should listen to and try to implement it and make it part of these grooves. For those of you that are really enjoying these lessons and getting something out of it, I want you to check out my website over at thedrummersalmanac.com. It's a great place to get in and really learn some of these techniques in terms of the reading, the sticking, the rhythms, the accents, all that stuff. We work on it every day, we hone it, and it's a really, really great resource for drummers. All the links can be found below in the description of this video. Also, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. We'll see you guys for the next one.